Hi there, my name is Ewan Nicholson. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Remembering Love. If you're new to this channel, it's a channel where we explore the subjects of healing childhood trauma, CPTSD, and all the various things in between. So welcome. If you like that kind of content, I put out content pretty much every week. So just click on the like and subscribe button and you'll get regular updates on the stuff that I put out. If you're not new to this channel, welcome back. Now, you can hear there's a little bit of summer rain here in Andalusia. It's always nice to hear. Today, we're going to be looking at the subject of how do we get closure through non-closure. I'm going to really explain what that means. And it's really, I'd like to explore today the subject of how do we find peace with things that have been left unresolved and unfinished. And I'd just like to share with you a couple of examples in my own life that have been left that way, and how I've tried to kind of find closure on those, even though I wasn't really given the materials to kind of do so. I wasn't given closure, but I had to find closure in the fact there was no closure. That had to be my closure, and I think that's something a lot of us face in the course of our life. So one of the things that happened to me, I think it was in 2011, my dad died, and I hadn't spoken to him for about 3 years. I hadn't seen him for about 5. I found out he got sick, he had stomach cancer, and various things occurred. And I was told, he was going to die, and I had to make this decision. Did I want to see him? Did I want to say goodbye for him, for me? Part of me was like, not sure. And I thought, okay, I better go there and kind of just do the right thing, even for myself. Even though part of me, want to tell him to get fucked, but I thought, okay, I'll go there and do the right thing. Be the bigger person, in inverted commas. I mean, he is dying. So I took that position. I was in Malta at the time. I flew over, took a train up to Fort William in Scotland where my dad was, and I saw him, and I guess I kind of had an expectation a little bit like the movies where he'd be there and he's kind of in his last days, and he'd bring me over and say I'm sorry and want to make peace on one level, want to get closure. Now on one level it wasn't to my surprise, it was more like in keeping with who he was through his life. He wasn't that way, Now whether at that point this is like 3 weeks before he died, whether he still hadn't really accepted that he was dying, he was still in some kind of denial, I don't know, but he was as belligerent and as difficult and as opinionated as he was throughout his life. So there was no sort of touching moment, there was no apology, there was just nothing. There was just him being pretty much the same old arsehole he's always been. So, eventually I was there for a few days, I said goodbye, and that was it. A few weeks later he died, and there was no closure. There was no little bow to put on it, no goodbye, no acknowledging anything from my end or from his. It was just these stilted conversations, didn't really go anywhere, nothing was really said, and that was it. And I had no real closure on it. And a lot of my stuff with him came out after his death, so I couldn't, I never really got to say the things I wanted to say myself. He didn't seem to really have any interest. He didn't, I think, really feel he had anything to say. And that was it. That's how it was left. And my brother who died, 2000, the day before he died, we were having a barbecue, and I remember this. He was meant to do the washing up. It was a big barbecue, there were a lot of people there, and I'd started. He was meant to help me with it or take over, whatever. I think I'd been drinking the day before. I was pretty hungover, and I heard him going out the door, and my last words to him is something along the lines of, "You fucking lazy bastard," shouting at him, not affectionately, like generally ticked off that I'm stuck here doing the washing. It was the last thing I ever said to him. And a day later he killed himself. No closure on that. And they're two deaths, and deaths like that, sudden death or even expected death, can put you in a position where you have no closure, where you have no kind of neat little tidy Hollywood ending to a situation, an attachment, a connection. And a lot of people deal with that. I come across a lot of that in my work, where people have been ghosted, people have had very difficult breakups, that they felt like there's just no closure. I mean, if you're dating someone, falling in love for 3 or 4 months, and suddenly that one day that person just stops communicating with you, blocks you, cuts off all contact with you, that's pretty shocking. That's pretty what do you do with all these feelings? How do you find closure in that? You can be dumped by a friend, You could be sacked by a workplace. There's all sorts of ways where we can have these abrupt endings, or these endings that aren't concluded. They're unresolved, unfinished, where there's all these questions still left to answer. Why did they do that? Or what happened? Or why did my friend want nothing to do with me? There was no explanation, there was no closure. And what do we do in those instances where we feel this kind of unresolvedness? And in my experience, one way or the other, we have to find peace with the fact that we can't get closure, that there never will be closure. And that is our closure. The closure of accepting there is no closure. To find closure in non-closure. And what that really means at the heart of it is, like when we need closure, there's a part of us where in order to get this peace, in order to get this sense of resolution, there is something out there, be it a person's gesture, an apology, an explanation, whatever it may be, please forgive me, whatever it may be. There's still this outstanding thing out there that if we get that, then we've got closure. And sometimes we just have to accept that's never coming. That there never is anything out there that's going to resolve that lack of resolution. So we have to make it ourselves. We have to say, I got to find peace independent of what I do or don't get out externally. I just got to find that with myself. That can take time. It's definitely a process. But I feel in the end, often it's the only thing we can do, because otherwise all we're doing is shaking our fist at the sky. We're telling the tide not to come in. We are fighting with something that often is in our own mind. You know, that I don't think my dad really gave a shit. I mean, the closure I was looking for, he wasn't looking for. And often abusers, people who treat people very badly, you know, they think they're the victims. They think they're the ones that have been hard done by. And we just can't get closure from these people. They'll just never give it to us, because the last thing they're going to do is take responsibility and acknowledge who they are and what they did. So often we have to find our own closure, even in the non-closure. And to do that, we have to find peace independent of what happens externally, what someone does or doesn't do. And it's hard, but it's definitely doable, and it's definitely a place to start. So look, I hope this has made sense. I hope this has helped you in some way. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much for coming. If you can hear that rain outside, it's very nice. And please take care of yourself. Bye bye.